The best decision I ever made started with me driving nearly 4 hours to the coast alone, which sounded mature, independent, possibly inspirational. Except 2 days later, I kissed the guesthouse owner's son in a parking lot, wrote Blue Lantern Guesthouse onto my private list of favorite places, and started thinking of Rockport less like a vacation spot and more like somewhere my heart had left a forwarding address. So yes, technically it was a beach trip, but somehow, between the ocean air, the blue lanterns, and one blonde boy with sea-warm skin, it became the kind of place I knew I would come back to every chance I got. But before all that, my summer fell apart at 9:17 in the morning. It happened with one text from Miles. Not officially, of course. There was no dramatic thunder, no sad violin music, no camera slowly zooming in on my betrayed face. Just my phone buzzing on my pillow while I was still half asleep, followed by one text from Miles. "Dude, I'm so sorry. I can't do the beach trip." I stared at the screen. Then I stared harder, because maybe if I glared with enough emotional violence, the words would rearrange themselves into something less devastating. They did not. 3 little dots appeared. My parents booked this whole family cabin thing before I remembered our plan. My mom already cried about one last family summer before college. I'm trapped. I rolled onto my back and pressed the phone to my chest like a Victorian widow receiving tragic war news. Family, of course. The one excuse I couldn't argue with without sounding like a terrible person. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type, "So I mean nothing to you. Cool. Hope the cabin has bears." Instead, because I had technically graduated high school 2 weeks ago and was now apparently an adult, I typed, "No worries. Family first." Then I threw my phone onto the blanket and groaned into my pillow for a full 30 seconds. Very mature. Very emotionally stable. Extremely college-ready. The beach trip was supposed to be our last big thing before everything changed. Before Miles went to Oregon. Before I started at Salem State University in the fall. Before my life became textbooks, dorm laundry, student loans, group projects, and pretending I understood what professors meant by office hours. I had already packed sunscreen. I had bought new swim trunks. I had made a playlist called Main Character Summer, which was embarrassing, but only if someone found out. And now I was alone. Not in a dramatic, tragic, throw myself into the ocean way. Just in the quiet, annoying way where the future suddenly felt much closer than it had yesterday. For about 5 minutes, I considered canceling everything and spending the weekend in my room, eating cereal straight from the box while becoming one with my mattress. Then I looked at the stack of college prep books on my desk. Orientation packet, course catalog, financial aid forms, a suspiciously thick binder labeled First Year Success Guide, which felt more like a threat than a guide. No, absolutely not. If adulthood was coming for me with a backpack full of deadlines, then I deserved 3 days of ocean air before it attacked. I sat up, grabbed my laptop, and searched for cheap beach stays within driving distance. Most places were either fully booked or priced like the room came with a personal chef and emotional healing. Then I found it. Blue Lantern Guesthouse, Rockport, grand opening discount, ocean nearby, quiet rooms, family owned. The photos looked almost too nice. White house, blue roof, wooden porch, little lanterns hanging by the front door. It looked peaceful in a way my life currently was not. Even better, it was cheap, suspiciously cheap. But I was 18, newly abandoned, and apparently one discount away from making major life decisions. I booked 2 nights. The confirmation email arrived instantly. For the first time all morning, I smiled. I thought I had just saved my summer. I didn't know I had booked a room at a guest house that wasn't supposed to be open yet. And I definitely didn't know the owner had a son who was about to ruin quiet rooms for me forever. The next morning, I left Albany with 1 suitcase, 3 bottles of water, a bag of gas station snacks, and the dangerous confidence of someone who had never driven nearly 4 hours alone before. My mom stood in the driveway in her robe, holding a mug of coffee like she was sending me off to war. She narrowed her eyes at the car. "Text me when you stop for gas." I lifted my keys. "Yes. And when you get there." "Yes. And don't pick up hitchhikers." I paused with one hand on the door handle. Was that a real concern? Her eyebrows rose over the rim of her mug. "You once brought home a raccoon because you thought it looked lonely. That was middle school, and in my defense, Kevin had kind eyes." My dad appeared behind her, half awake, hair sticking up in every direction. "Don't name anything on this trip unless it's a sandwich." That was the kind of emotional send-off my family specialized in. I drove away before anyone could add more survival instructions. For the first hour, I felt amazing, independent, free. The highway opened ahead of me. My playlist blasted through the speakers, and I sang like I was auditioning for a movie nobody asked me to star in. By hour 2, my back started complaining. By hour 3, I had eaten half a bag of sour gummies and convinced myself I was becoming chemically dependent on neon sugar. By the final stretch, I was talking to the GPS like we were co-workers in a stressful office. The calm female voice announced, "Continue for 17 miles. I pointed at the dashboard. "Easy for you to say. You don't have legs." Somewhere after that, the road changed. The strip malls faded. The highway narrowed. Pine trees leaned closer to the pavement, and the air coming through my cracked window started smelling less like hot asphalt and more like salt. Then I saw it. The ocean. It flashed blue between the trees at first, quick and bright, like the world was winking at me. Then the road curved, and suddenly the whole bay opened up in front of me. Rockport. I pulled over without really deciding to. The sun was already dropping toward the water, turning everything gold around the edges. Cars moved slowly along the coastal road. A few kids ran barefoot near the shore. Someone's dog barked at a wave like it had personally offended him. I sat there with both hands on the wheel, engine still humming, and just breathed. For the first time since miles canceled, I didn't feel like I'd been left behind. I felt like maybe I had accidentally arrived exactly where I was supposed to be, which was dangerous thinking. That was the kind of thought people had before making questionable decisions in summer movies. I opened the confirmation email again and tapped the number listed under guest contact. Blue Lantern Guesthouse. "Hi, this is Daniel Foster. I booked a room for tonight. I'm about 20 minutes away." A pause. Not long, just long enough to make my stomach notice. Then the man's voice warmed. "Daniel, great. Drive safe. We'll be here. We'll be here." For some reason, that made my hands tighten around the steering wheel. I copied the address for Blue Lantern Guesthouse and started the car. "Okay," I muttered at the GPS. "Let's not get murdered by a discount booking." 10 minutes later, the paved road turned into a quieter lane lined with beach grass and low wooden fences. The houses grew farther apart. The ocean stayed close enough that I could hear it when I slowed at turns. Then the GPS chimed. "Your destination is on the right." I looked up. A white house with a blue roof sat beyond a small gate, lanterns glowing softly on the porch. And under one of those blue lanterns, someone was standing there, watching my car pull in like this was not a surprise at all. The man under the lantern lifted one hand as I pulled into the gravel driveway. Not a creepy wave. Thank God. More like the kind of wave dads gave when they were trying to look casual but had absolutely been waiting by the window for 20 minutes. I parked, grabbed my backpack, and stepped out into air that smelled like salt, warm wood, and something cooking somewhere nearby. The man walked down the porch steps with an easy smile. He looked somewhere in his 40s, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes and the kind of face that made you trust him before your brain could file the proper paperwork. "Daniel Foster?" I adjusted my backpack strap. "That's me. Unless this is about unpaid parking tickets, in which case I'm nobody." His smile deepened. "John Hart. Welcome to Blue Lantern Guesthouse." He offered his hand. His grip was warm, firm, not trying to prove anything. I liked him immediately, which was inconvenient because I had planned to remain cautious and mysterious. Neither of those things survived contact with free hospitality. John glanced at my car, then at my suitcase in the back seat. Long drive. Almost 4 hours, 3 playlists, and one emotional argument with my GPS. A quiet laugh shook his shoulders. Sounds about right. Come on. I'll help you get settled. I popped the trunk before he could reach for it. Oh no, it's okay. I can carry it. John already had the suitcase handle in his hand. First guest doesn't carry his own bag. First guest. The words landed oddly, but before I could decide what to do with them, he was already walking toward the house. Blue Lantern looked even better up close. The white siding was freshly painted. The porch rails were smooth and new, and tiny blue lanterns hung from the beams, swaying whenever the ocean breeze slipped through. It didn't feel like a hotel. It felt like someone had turned a home into a promise. Inside, the place was clean and bright, but not cold. There were framed photos along the hallway, a bowl of wrapped candies near the front desk, and a hand-painted sign that read, "Take your shoes off if you want, or don't. We're not your mom." I stared at it. John followed my eyes, looking faintly embarrassed. My son made that. I respect the tone. He has too much of it. We climbed the stairs to my room. It was small, but in the cozy way, with a blue quilt on the bed, a window facing the side of the beach, and a little desk tucked under the corner. The kind of room where you could read, nap, or dramatically stare out the window while pretending you were in a music video. John set my suitcase down near the closet. Bathrooms across the hall. Towels are in the basket. Wi-Fi password is on the nightstand. I picked up the card. Password. Please leave a good review. I looked up. John rubbed the back of his neck. Also my son. Still respecting the tone. That made him laugh again, but this time I noticed what I had missed before. His smile was real. The sadness behind it was real too. It sat quietly in his eyes, like something he had learned to carry without letting it spill onto anyone else. I didn't know him well enough to ask. I barely knew him at all, but I felt it anyway. A house this warm should not have felt so carefully put back together. John cleared his throat and handed me the key. We're still getting the menu sorted, so dinner's a little informal tonight. If you don't mind eating with us, there's plenty. My stomach answered before my manners could. Loudly, I froze. John's mouth twitched. I'll take that as a yes. I wanted to disappear into the floorboards. That was my official acceptance. Great. Come down whenever you're ready. No pressure. After he left, I stood in the quiet room, listening to his footsteps fade down the stairs. First guest. Unfinished menu. Family dinner. Blue Lantern was starting to feel less like a normal booking and more like I had stepped into the soft opening of someone's life. I showered fast, changed into a clean shirt, and tried to make my hair look less like I had spent nearly 4 hours losing a fight with a car seat. It did not fully cooperate. When I finally headed downstairs, voices drifted from the kitchen. John's low and warm, and another one, younger, brighter. A laugh followed, easy and sunlit, and for some reason I slowed on the last step. Then I turned toward the dining room and saw him. For one terrifying second, my brain stopped being a brain. It became a small, smoking crater. John waved me toward the table. Grab some water, Daniel. Dinner's almost ready. I moved on autopilot because apparently my body was still functioning even though my brain had left the building. There was a pitcher of water on the sideboard, a bowl of lemon wedges beside it, and absolutely no reason for this to become embarrassing. Then the guy beside the kitchen counter looked up. He had sun-bleached blonde hair, messy in a way that looked accidental and unfairly perfect. His skin had that warm, golden tan people got when they grew up near water and didn't have to think about it. He wore a faded gray t-shirt, loose shorts, and the kind of relaxed smile that made it very hard to remember what lemons were for. I picked up a lemon wedge. I squeezed. Into my water. Plain water. The slice floated there, accusing me. John looked between my glass and my face like he was too kind to mention what had just happened. "Daniel, this is my son, Leo." Leo wiped his hands on a dish towel and stepped closer. "Hey!" That was it. One word. Apparently one word was enough to make me forget every social skill I had developed since kindergarten. I lifted my glass slightly. "Hi, I'm Daniel. I put lemons where they belong." No one moved. Then Leo's mouth twitched. John pressed his lips together. I wanted the floor to open, but in a gentle way, like a trapdoor with emotional support. Leo pointed at my glass. "Bold choice." I looked down. I'm trying to bring excitement to hydration. That finally got a laugh out of him. A real one. Warm, quick, bright. Extremely dangerous. John gestured toward the table. "Sit, sit. Dinner's ready before Leo decides to improve anything else." Leo slid into the chair across from me, still smiling. "For the record, my improvements are usually great." John gave him a look while setting down a bowl of pasta. "You once put chili oil in pancake batter." Leo leaned back, completely unashamed. "People need to wake up. I should have focused on the food." The pasta smelled amazing. There was grilled corn, salad, bread, lemonade that was thankfully already lemon-based and therefore safe for me. But Leo was across the table, and my attention kept betraying me. His fingers tapped lightly against his glass. He had a tiny scar near one knuckle. When John talked, Leo listened with his whole face, eyes soft, mouth tilted like he was always 1 second away from teasing him. Every time he glanced at me, I looked down too fast and became intensely interested in lettuce. Leo knows this town better than anyone. John passed me the bread. "If you want to explore tomorrow, he can show you around." Leo's eyes flicked to mine. "Only if you want. No pressure." I swallowed too quickly and almost died by carbohydrate. "Yeah, that'd be cool." Leo's smile came back, slower this time. "Cool, cool." We were both poets. John wiped his hands on a napkin. "He's got nothing going on this summer anyway." Leo turned toward him, wounded. "Wow, in front of our first guest." First guest again. I paused with my fork halfway to my mouth. "Wait, first guest as in first guest today?" Leo suddenly became very interested in his lemonade. John's smile turned sheepish. "Technically, first guest ever." I blinked. Leo lifted one hand. "Before you panic, the house is safe, the sheets are clean, and the place passed every inspection. We were supposed to do a soft opening next month. The website just wasn't supposed to be live yet." I stared at him. He winced. "That part may have been my fault." John sighed, but there was affection in it. "He posted the listing early. I posted it enthusiastically. You posted it unfinished. I took it down after 9 minutes." I raised my hand slightly. "And I booked in those 9 minutes?" Leo looked at me then, really looked at me, his expression softening into something that made the room feel warmer. "Yeah." His smile turned shy at the edges. "Maybe it was fate." My fork slipped against the plate with a tiny clink. Fate. That was a ridiculous thing to say to a stranger at dinner. Ridiculous, dramatic, possibly illegal for someone with his face. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. "Or your bad web management." Leo grinned. "Could be both." For one stupid second, I let myself believe him. Then reality tapped me politely on the shoulder. I was leaving in 2 days. Leo was being nice because his family owned the guest house. And I had a long, embarrassing history of mistaking kindness for something warmer when I wanted it badly enough. So I laughed, looked down at my plate, and told my heart to stop unpacking. After dinner, I helped clear plates even though John tried to stop me. Leo stood beside me at the sink, our shoulders almost touching. Passing me dishes like this was normal. Like we had done it before. Like I belonged there. While I dried a plate, Leo nudged his phone across the counter with one knuckle. His eyes stayed on the sink, but his ears had gone pink. Just in case you need anything tomorrow. Guest services. Very official. I stared at the contact screen for half a second too long. Then I typed in my number like a normal person. Mostly. When I finally escaped upstairs, I closed my bedroom door and leaned back against it. 3 days. I only had to survive 3 days with Leo Hart. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Leo lit up the screen. Very professional guest services checking in. Coffee or tea? I stared at Leo's text for way too long. Not because the question was difficult. Coffee or tea? A toddler with basic beverage awareness could answer that. But my brain saw it's Leo and immediately behaved like a raccoon finding a shiny object. I typed coffee, deleted it, typed tea, deleted that too, then finally sent coffee, unless this is a personality test. His reply came almost instantly. It is. You passed. Barely. I smiled at my phone like an idiot. Then I realized I was smiling at my phone like an idiot and threw it face down on the bed. Very normal. Extremely chill. Nothing concerning here. The next morning, I got ready in the careful, casual way people get ready when they want to look like they didn't try while absolutely trying. I changed shirts twice. Fixed my hair. Unfixed it. Fixed it again. At some point I whispered, "Get a grip," to my own reflection. My reflection did not look convinced. When I came downstairs, Leo was already on the porch with 2 iced coffees. Sunlight caught in his blonde hair, turning the messy strands gold at the edges. He wore a blue shirt today, faded from too many washes, sleeves pushed up like he had personally declared war on my attention span. He held out 1 cup. For the guest with barely acceptable taste. I took it, carefully avoiding touching his fingers and then immediately regretting avoiding touching his fingers. Strong start for someone hoping for a good review. Leo's eyes brightened. I'm not worried. Dad makes breakfast. I provide emotional damage. Is that listed under amenities? Only for special guests. I took a long sip of coffee, mostly to give my face something to do. John appeared behind the screen door with a plate of toast in one hand. Don't let him take you anywhere illegal. Leo turned, offended. One time, John looked at me. If he says, secret shortcut, ask questions. Leo grabbed his keys from the porch table. We are leaving before my character gets destroyed. I followed him down the steps, trying not to laugh too hard. Leo's truck was old, sun-warmed, and smelled faintly like ocean air, mint gum, and sunscreen. There were seashells in the cup holder and a sweatshirt tossed in the back seat. Felt lived in. Easy. Like Leo. Our first stop was a small food stand near the pier that sold warm custard-filled waffle cakes shaped like little fish. Leo insisted they were mandatory. I bit into one and burned my tongue immediately. Leo winced in sympathy while also clearly trying not to laugh. You have to wait 10 seconds. Covered my mouth. That information would have been useful 10 seconds ago. Consider it part of the authentic local experience. After that, he took me through the morning market, where vendors called his name every few steps. Everyone knew him. The woman selling peaches gave him an extra one for the tourist. An older man at the bait shop slapped Leo on the shoulder and told him to stop growing taller. Leo accepted all of it with embarrassed patience. I watched him move through the town like he belonged to every piece of it. And maybe that should have made me feel like an outsider. Instead, every time he glanced back to make sure I was still with him, I felt strangely included. Like I wasn't just visiting his town. Like for one dangerous second at a time, he wanted me there. By noon, we were sitting behind an old ice cream shop with paper cups of strawberry soft serve melting faster than we could eat it. Leo pointed his spoon at me. You're quieter than I expected. I looked down at my ice cream. I'm not quiet. I'm observing. Observing what? You almost came out. Thankfully, I still had one functioning survival instinct. This town, I mumbled. It's nice. Leo's smile softened. Yeah, it is. For a moment, neither of us filled the silence. Then his knee bumped mine under the picnic table. Not hard. Maybe an accident. Neither of us moved. My whole body noticed. Later, he took me to a narrow path behind a row of beach cottages. It opened onto a hidden stretch of sand scattered with smooth rocks and tiny shells. Leo stepped ahead, turning to face me as the wind pulled at his shirt. This is my favorite spot. I looked past him at the quiet water, the empty shore, the sunlight flashing over the waves. Then I looked back at Leo. Of course it was. Of course his favorite place would look like something a person could accidentally fall in love inside. Leo crouched near the rocks and picked up a small blue shell. His face changed when he saw it. Just for a second. Soft, careful, almost sad. I stepped closer. What is it? Leo rubbed his thumb over the shell, then looked toward the far end of the beach where a tiny shop stood near the road, its windows full of blue lanterns. My mom used to collect these. And just like that, the whole day tilted into something deeper. For a second, I forgot how to respond. Not because Leo sounded broken. He didn't. His voice didn't crack. His eyes didn't fill with tears. There was no dramatic movie moment where the wind stopped and the soundtrack swelled. He just looked down at the little blue shell in his palm like it belonged to someone who wasn't here anymore. And somehow that felt heavier. I shifted beside him, careful not to step too close. Your mom liked shells? Leo's thumb moved over the smooth edge. Shells, sea glass, old postcards, weird mugs from tourist shops. A small smile pulled at his mouth. She had terrible taste in souvenirs and defended every single purchase like it was museum-quality art. I smiled too because his smile didn't feel forced. It felt practiced around an ache. She would have loved that shop. Leo nodded toward the tiny place near the road, where blue lanterns hung in the window. Actually, she did love that shop. She bought the first lantern there. The first one. Leo tucked the shell into his pocket and started walking slowly toward the shop. I followed. The one on our front porch. The original blue lantern. His eyes stayed forward, but his voice softened. She used to say every tired person needed a light to come home to, even if home was just for one night. That sentence hit me somewhere quiet. I thought about my room upstairs. The blue quilt, the little desk, the ridiculous Wi-Fi password. John carrying my suitcase like I mattered because I was the first guest. Suddenly Blue Lantern didn't feel like a discount booking anymore. It felt like a promise someone had made and almost lost. We stopped outside the shop. Inside, the lanterns glowed in different shades of blue. Some pale as sea glass, some deep like evening water. Leo looked through the window. Mom wanted to turn the house into a little seaside guest house after I graduated. She had menus planned, room names, guest books, everything. Dad used to pretend it was too much work, but he kept every sketch she made. My throat tightened, and after she passed, Leo nodded once. Not dramatic, just enough. Dad kept fixing the house, but never opening it. New paint, new porch rail, new towels, new sign. Always one more thing. His mouth twisted gently. I posted the listing early because I thought one booking might force him to open the door. His thumb rubbed the edge of the shell again. I just didn't expect someone to actually walk through it. The words settled between us with the sound of the tide. My voice came out softer than I expected. Was it scary? Leo looked at the shop window, at all those blue lanterns glowing like small, patient stars. A little, because if no one came, it was still just Mom's dream. But if someone came and hated it, his smile barely moved. Then it would feel like losing it twice. I didn't know what to do with that except stand there and wish, very suddenly, that I could protect a place I had only known for one day. So basically, I tried, softer this time. I'm your accidental business strategy. Leo turned to me like he meant to laugh. He didn't. His voice dropped. Yeah, except you don't feel like business. The air changed after that. Not dramatically. Not enough for either of us to name it. Just enough that the joke I was about to make stayed in my throat. Excuse you, I managed, softer than before. I paid real money. Leo's mouth curved. Discount money. Still legal currency. Leo's eyes stayed on mine, amused and something else. Something softer than teasing. The space between us felt smaller than before. I looked away first because I was a coward with excellent survival instincts. A bell jingled as the shop door opened. An older woman peeked out, silver hair tucked behind one ear. Her gaze landed on Leo, then me, then Leo again. Her smile turned knowing in a way that felt personally dangerous. Leo Hart, you finally brought someone to the lantern shop. Leo's ears went pink so fast I almost checked for sunburn. I stared at the pavement. Please, pavement, take me. The woman opened the door wider. Come in, boys. I just unpacked something your mother would have wanted you to see. Leo's smile faded. His hand brushed mine by accident. Neither of us moved away. And when we stepped inside, the lantern waiting on the counter had my name written on the tag. My name was on the tag. Not handwritten in creepy ransom letters, thankfully. Just neat black ink on a small cream card tied to the handle of a blue glass lantern. Daniel Foster, first guest. The ink still looked fresh. I stared at it. Then I stared at Leo. Then I stared back at the tag, because apparently my brain needed several angles of evidence before accepting that this was, in fact, happening. The shop owner beamed behind the counter. Your dad called this morning, Leo. Told me Blue Lantern finally had its first guest. Leo rubbed the back of his neck, cheeks still pink. Mrs. Bell makes these for special occasions. Mrs. Bell placed both hands over her heart like she had been waiting years to say this. Your mother always wanted the first guest to have one. She told me that back when you were barely tall enough to reach the candy jar. Leo looked down, smiling at the counter instead of at me. Something warm moved through my chest. I had been here barely 24 hours. One wrong booking. One cheap room. One dinner where I assaulted plain water with a lemon wedge. And somehow these people had folded me into something that mattered. I touched the tag lightly. This is really for me? Mrs. Bell slid the lantern closer. Unless there's another Daniel Foster wandering around being charming and sunburn prone. I glanced at my arms. I am not sunburn prone. I'm sunscreen challenged. Leo's mouth twitched. That's one way to describe applying it like salad dressing. I turned on him. You watched that. You were standing in the driveway fighting the bottle for 3 minutes. I was establishing dominance. You lost. Mrs. Bell laughed and started wrapping the lantern in soft paper. Oh, I like this one. This one is fragile, I mumbled, mostly to myself. Leo heard me anyway. His eyes flicked to mine, gentle and bright. I'll be careful. The worst part was I believed him. After we left the shop, Leo insisted on continuing the official first guest tour, which apparently included the pier, a bookstore the size of a closet, and a frozen lemonade stand run by a man who called everyone kid, even if they were clearly 45. By late afternoon, my notebook had sand in the spine, my shoes were dusty, and my face hurt from smiling. Leo walked beside me with the lantern box tucked under one arm like it was precious. Every so often, our hands brushed. The first time, I pretended not to notice. The second time, he pretended not to notice. The third time, neither of us was convincing anyone. And that was the problem. Because every brush of his hand made some reckless part of me whisper, stay. But I didn't live here. I wasn't part of this town, or this guest house, or the grief and hope wrapped up in those blue lanterns. I was a guest. Guests left. We ended up at the hidden beach again, sitting on a flat rock while the tide moved in slow silver lines below us. Leo passed me a peach Mrs. Bell had forced into his hand before we left. I took a bite and tried not to drip juice on my shirt. Leo failed to hide his smile. "You're very graceful." I wiped my chin with the back of my hand. "I'm giving effortless coastal elegance." "You're giving sticky." "That's a recognized aesthetic." His shoulder bumped mine. This time he didn't move away. Neither did I. The sun lowered behind us, turning the water gold. Leo looked at the waves, then at the lantern box between us. "My mom would have liked you." My chest went quiet. No joke came fast enough to save me, so I let the truth happen. "I wish I could have met her." Leo's smile softened, smaller now. "Me too." For a while we just sat there, shoulder to shoulder, close enough that the warmth of him reached me through the evening air. Then Leo pulled out his phone, glanced at the screen, and made a face. I leaned closer. "Bad news." His thumb hovered over the message, and his ears turned red again. "Dad wants us back before dark." "That sounds reasonable." Leo looked at me from under messy blonde hair. "He also says we need to test the porch lights tonight." I waited. Leo's smile turned nervous. "And hang your lantern." My heart gave one loud, stupid thump, because somehow I knew that lantern was not just going on the porch. It was going to change what happened between us next. By the time we got back to Blue Lantern, the sky had turned soft purple and the porch lights were still off. John stood on the front steps with a toolbox in one hand and the suspiciously innocent expression of a man who had absolutely planned something. He looked at the lantern box in Leo's arms, then at me. Perfect timing. Leo narrowed his eyes. "Dad." John lifted both hands. "What?" "The guest lantern needs a place." Guest lantern. Right. Totally normal. Nothing emotionally dangerous about hanging a personalized blue lantern on the porch of the boy currently making my heart forget how quiet was supposed to feel. Leo grabbed the ladder from the side of the house while I held the lantern box like it contained an ancient artifact instead of one very pretty object and several of my very inconvenient feelings. John pointed toward the porch beam. "That hook there. Your mom always wanted the first one near the entrance." Leo's face softened. Just for a second. Then he climbed the ladder and I immediately forgot how ladders worked. Because Leo was above me, one hand gripping the wooden beam, his shirt lifting just enough at his waist to make me suddenly very interested in the structural integrity of the porch. I stared at the ground. The ground was safe. The ground had no tan skin, no messy blonde hair, no smile capable of ending me. Leo glanced down. "You okay?" I nodded too fast. "Yep, just supervising gravity." His laugh floated over me. "Important job." John coughed behind us. It sounded suspiciously like a laugh being murdered. I handed the lantern up. Our fingers brushed. Barely. My whole body noticed like it had received a formal announcement. Leo took the lantern carefully and hooked it into place. John stepped back and flipped the switch. Blue light bloomed over the porch. Soft. Warm. Not bright enough to blind anyone. Just enough to make the White House glow like it had been waiting to breathe again. No one spoke for a moment. John looked up at the lantern, and his eyes shone in the porch light. For a second, his mouth moved like he was about to say a name. Then he only cleared his throat, pretending to examine the switch. "Looks good." Leo came down the ladder slowly. When his feet hit the porch, he reached for the rail at the same time I did. Our knuckles touched against the wood. Neither of us moved first. John picked up the toolbox with the subtlety of a man ringing a church bell. "I'm going inside. Long day. Very tired. Extremely tired." Leo closed his eyes. "Dad." John was already halfway through the door. "Guests need fresh towels in the morning. Don't stay out too late." The door shut. The silence after him felt huge. Leo looked at me. I looked at Leo. Then we both laughed, quiet and embarrassed, because apparently his father had just tucked us into a romantic setup and walked away whistling. Leo rubbed the back of his neck. Want to see it from the beach? I should have said something clever. I managed. Yeah. We walked down the sandy path behind the house. The ocean was dark, the waves silver under the moon, and Blue Lantern glowed behind us with my little lantern near the front like a new star. Leo sat beside me on the sand, close enough that our knees touched. I pulled my notebook from my hoodie pocket because I was nervous and needed something to do with my hands. Leo noticed immediately. Of course he did. His eyes dropped to the blue cover. Did I make the important list yet? I should have lied. Instead, I opened to the first page and handed it to him before bravery could leave my body. His smile faded as he read. Things I want to remember before college. The sunset at Rockport. Blue Lantern Guesthouse. Free dinner that tasted better than it should have. Leo laughing when he thinks no one is watching. Leo saying maybe it was fate. Leo. 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 His thumb rested beside his own name. Once. Twice. Too many times. I wanted to evaporate. In my defense, I was unsupervised with a pen. Leo looked up slowly. His expression was softer than I was prepared for. I have a list too. My voice came out small. Yeah. Leo looked toward the water, then back at me. I want to remember how you looked at the sunset like it was saving you. How you thanked my dad 3 times for dinner. How you pretend not to stare and fail every single time. Heat climbed up my neck. That last one feels unnecessary. His smile shook a little. It's my favorite one. The ocean moved in the dark beside us. Leo's hand found mine on the sand, careful enough to give me every chance to pull away. I didn't. He laced our fingers together. I like you, Daniel. Probably more than I should after one dinner, one town tour, and one aggressively emotional lantern. My heart went so loud it should have drowned out the waves. I squeezed his hand. Good, because I booked a quiet room, and somehow you became the loudest part of my whole summer. Leo laughed under his breath. Then his smile faded into something careful. His eyes dropped to my mouth. Mine did the same to his. For one breath, neither of us moved. Then Leo swallowed, his forehead almost touching mine. I shouldn't do this with a guest who's leaving tomorrow. The sentence should have cooled everything down. It did not. It only made the space between us feel smaller. I know, I whispered. His hand tightened around mine. That's the problem. He leaned in. I leaned in. And my phone buzzed with a message from Miles. Bro. How's the solo trip going? Miles had unbelievable timing. I stared at the text while Leo's hand was still in mine. He's still close enough that I could count the tiny freckles across his nose. The almost kiss hung between us, warm and unfinished. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Leo's eyes flicked to my phone, then back to my face. Friend. I turned the screen toward him. Leo read it, then leaned back on one hand, looking entirely too pleased with himself. You could tell him the hospitality is excellent. My best friend abandoned me for family bonding. He doesn't deserve details. Leo squeezed my hand. Harsh. Fair. I typed one-handed. Pretty good. Didn't die. Might leave a 5-star review. Miles replied instantly. That sounds suspiciously wholesome. Are you eating enough? I looked at Leo, at the ocean behind him, at the blue lantern glowing on the porch like it had always been waiting for us. Then I typed, yeah, I'm good. Really good. For once, I meant it without trying to convince myself. The next morning arrived too quickly, which felt rude. After everything the universe had done to get me here, it could have at least stretched time a little. I woke before my alarm and lay in bed listening to the waves outside my window. My suitcase sat half-packed by the door. The room was quiet. Too quiet now. Downstairs, John made breakfast like he was feeding a small army instead of one emotionally compromised guest. Pancakes, eggs, fruit, coffee, toast. The pancakes were a little burned around the edges, but somehow that made them better. Leo sat across from me, barefoot under the table, hair still damp from a shower. His foot brushed mine once, then stayed there. I stared very hard at my plate, because apparently we were both pretending we had not almost kissed under the moonlight 12 hours earlier. We were doing a terrible job. John poured more coffee into my mug, eyes carefully innocent. "Sleep okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, great." Leo coughed into his cup. I kicked his ankle lightly under the table. John looked between us for exactly 2 seconds, then turned toward the sink with the tiny smile of a man who knew everything and was choosing peace. After breakfast, I wrote and posted the first review for Blue Lantern Guesthouse on my phone while Leo hovered behind me, pretending not to hover. The room was quiet. The view was beautiful. The food tasted like home. I left with more than I booked for. Leo read over my shoulder and went completely still. Then his face turned pink all the way to his ears. John leaned over from the counter, squinting at the screen. "That's a very careful 5-star review." I buried my face in one hand. "Please don't make me regret being subtle." Leo bumped his shoulder against mine. "Too late. I'm still framing it." Leaving was not dramatic. No rain, no tearful goodbye, no desperate promises made in a driveway. Just me standing beside my car with a lump in my throat, trying to act like 3 days had not quietly rearranged my entire heart. Leo handed me the little blue shell from the beach, now tied to a thin cord. "For the road." I held it carefully. "For the first guest?" His eyes stayed on mine. "For Daniel." That was unfair. That was extremely unfair. I hugged him before I could overthink it. Leo's arms wrapped around me immediately, warm and steady, his chin brushing my shoulder. Near the porch, John pretended to adjust a perfectly fine lantern. Leo pulled back just enough to look at me. His thumb brushed once over the cord around my wrist, then stilled. "We don't have to make this bigger than it is." My throat tightened. I tried to smile. "And how big is it?" His eyes flicked to mine, then to my mouth, then back again. "Big enough that I'm going to hate watching you drive away." This time, neither of us laughed. This time, neither of us pulled away. Leo kissed me beside my car, soft and warm and careful, like he knew I was leaving and wanted to give me something that would follow me all the way home. When he pulled back, I forgot the entire English language for a second. Leo's grin turned shy. "Text me when you get home, quiet room boy." I touched the shell on my wrist. "Only if you promise not to make me miss this place more than I already do." His smile softened. "No promises." I drove away from Rockport with the shell looped around my wrist and the blue lantern shrinking in my rearview mirror. 20 minutes later, I pulled into a scenic overlook because I needed one last look at the ocean. Or maybe I needed one more excuse not to be gone yet. That was when my phone buzzed. Leo had sent a photo of the porch. My lantern was still glowing. Under it, a handwritten sign hung from the hook. "Reserved for Daniel Foster." My chest squeezed. Then another message appeared. "Think you can come back before college starts?" I looked at the road ahead, then at the ocean still flashing blue beside me. I typed back before I could overthink it. "Save me the quiet room." The reply came almost immediately. "Always." And for the first time all summer, leaving didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the fastest route back. And that was how my summer ended. With a short beach trip, a guest house that was not supposed to be open yet, and one kiss in a parking lot with the owner's son. Even now, I still think 5 stars was not enough. Because I got quiet rooms, ocean air, food that tasted like home, and the kind of view people usually put on postcards. But more than that, I got Leo. Sun-bleached blonde hair, warm sea-tan skin, a smile that still made my phone feel dangerous every time his name lit up the screen. We had not known each other long. Not really. But some people did not need months to become important. Some people walked into your summer by accident, handed you a blue lantern, and somehow made every road after that point feel like it was leading back to them. So yeah, maybe I booked more than a room. Maybe I booked the beginning of us.